Morning, everyone. Good to see you all. I thought we had more people in this room when COVID was at a peak. But it's good to see everyone, and it's good to have Jay here. And I know Jay is extremely busy, both in council business and in the family business at John's Oil. And, so we'll try to get Jay out of here in a timely fashion. I would like to say I've known Jay for quite a long time. He grew up on the other side of the river from where I lived, and Jay is, well, he was a student, plumbing student at Lynn Tech. I'm sure Judy does as well, and Jay does extremely well for the city. He loves the city, and he's grown into being a true leader now as council president, serving in his fourth term as the Ward 7 council, and now council president. So it's great to have Jay here to talk about some of the initiatives going on within the city. He's working extremely closely with Mayor Nicholson, and we get updates on a daily basis from both of them. And so I'll turn it over to Jay.
Jay. Thank you. So it's a pleasure to be here. Ms. Josephs, how you doing, Ms. Josephs?
I'm fine. Nice to see you.
So Rick was very gracious to be nice and not just say that he was a teacher. He was a teacher at the school. I chased him through the hallways, but as a tech guy. But yeah, it's exciting. We're in exciting times in the city. I think the relationship with the city council and the mayor's office is really at a point where we talk probably 4 or 5 times a day. I spoke to the mayor before I was in the parking lot talking to him. He called me this morning. So those type of relationships are pretty cohesive to try to move things forward in the city. And it's exciting. It's a really exciting time. The development, for just businesses in the city, for the city in general. For the first time, I think we actually have some money, which is exciting, right? So that's a good thing, that was really difficult for the first 2 terms for me as a councilor to have to tell people just, no, we don't have it, no, we can't do it. And I think in some ways, people who can be councilors or elected officials and be able to explain that to people, something better. So easy to say yes to. Hard to say. So, but I think we're turning that corner in the city, and it's exciting. Very excited about it. I think some of the stuff you probably see, some of the biotech things we're looking at now. I'm sure it's of interest to everybody here. Trying to look at attracting those businesses, and it's got some foothold possibilities. Mm-hmm. Thank you. Yeah, you guys got questions?
Yeah. Could you, we have a lot of real estate people and development people in the chamber. Could you maybe touch a little bit on the new resolution process regarding development so that everybody's included in the conversation, kind of on the same page?
If I started to interrupt you, but this was a point that was raised recently that Mary Nicholson said there was going to be a new process. Is that the one you're referring to? Thank you.
So in the past, I think the secret that it was very the mayor's office and the council were not on the same page at times, not for any particular fault, but just for talk. And that hurt a lot of business, hurt a lot of people that wanted to do business in the city. Don't we really need to go to? Who's the person you go to, and how do you get this done? Can you? So it's not fair. So we wanted to make sure that there was some sort of a process that we could go down on what is the steps people need to go to. Because if you're a developer or if you're someone in the city that wants to be able to come in and do this work, who do you go to? And it's not really, if you're an outsider, it's not really fair, right? So we wanted to make sure that there was a written procedure on what these development groups would want to see and what you could tell them to do. So that's kind of what we do. So we have GAC as one of the people, the councilor of the ward is on it, and these different steps that we agreed to under a resolution. So if everybody's happy right now, this is great, but if it's not going to be happy going forward, then it doesn't hold the council to that type of thing. But I think trying to get everybody on the same page and knowing what we're doing is half of that. Because you leave one person out, somebody gets angry, it just doesn't help. So at least everyone's brought along the way, and we can all have our input. So that's
No, that's great. Thank you. Where is that kind of published and is there something that we can point to, a physical document or a flow chart or something that we can look to every business walking into the room and say, here's the map?
I believe it. Yes, I don't know.
I know it's counties we have. We have copies.
We have copies, but I can find them all. I don't know.
Yeah, it involves the city planner. Something. Yes. Well, everybody would come together. And, you know, at first it had said, representative of the city council, I had offered up a suggestion that it be the board. But nobody goes to the board. Yeah, and then everybody would come together. And what that was to prevent, I guess, was a lot of times people will just go to the board council. And I don't have a problem with it, or yeah, I have a problem with it, and it either moves forward or it doesn't, but it moves forward with the special permit process. And sometimes, some of the people, whether it be the planner or EDIC or whoever, the mayor's office, doesn't even know that that's coming up for a special permit, so we're about to vote on it in the council. You know? So
It makes for contentious.
so that was kind of designed between Jay and the mayor to kind of get everybody included on the same page, so that everybody.
Yeah, that would be my only piece of feedback is wherever the entry point is, wherever you feel it's the best, you guys are the ones that are best to make that decision.
I mean, as a ward councilor, I still think the first point of contact is the ward councilor, but EDIC would definitely be a place to go.
Yeah,
I think that's it. We probably bring a lot of historic knowledge to people in the neighborhoods. And the reason the city council still has the same, why we should always, is it's a Democrat. So people elect us, you know, and they put us in these jobs representing the neighborhood. So we don't want to have a board or commission that doesn't allow that say by someone. So I at least in my, I think that's it. It also, to be fair, it makes it hard on the council too in some ways. Development that may be good for the city, but I still think this is the process. I think it makes it fair. That's where we should all be involved.
no, I think that, like I said, I support wherever you feel it's best. My only thing would be, we have to make this extremely public and extremely clear. I never like using the DMV as the analogy for efficiency, ever. But when you walk into the DMV, you know you go to the front door and they will then triage you to wherever you know. It's all, I know exactly where to go when I walk in that front door. Like I said, I never like using them as the analogy for efficiency.
But we can get you a copy of that.
Yeah, but I do like the ward council standpoint versus just a kind of a triage desk or something. Because there's some businesses that might want to keep it on the confidential side in early stage discussions. And if they're walking into a front desk filling out a form for whatever it may be, they lose that. So I do think that there's a lot to be enabling a business to have a confidential entry point into that process.
I think it's a great point. I think the one thing that we have now as council and have that's important is having, because it's great for me to give you the historic perspective of people's opinion in the neighborhood, but you know, we're regular people with regular jobs, we're not planners, and there are things that can be done to mitigate certain issues we may have or may not have, or businesses may have, and that's important to be able to have that for us to go and say, is this good? Is it bad? What can we do to make it work? And here's the concerns from the neighbors. And the two planners that we have right now, even in small issues like traffic flow on the street, you know, people speeding, I've had to look at it as a city planner, and these are existing problems that didn't need any fixing other than neighbors were complaining about it. And you know, get ideas to do simple fixes. You know, I mean, years ago, people said, I want a one-way. Well, that's not always a good answer to speeding, because now cars know that it's a roadway you can just go without worrying about it come at you, right? So it increases. So, but, you know, small way for us councils, I think that they've been a really good asset to have.
Mhm.
for us. So even in these bigger settings, they've been really valuable by us. It's bringing us into understanding things that we may not always understand or at least answer questions. That have answers.
Does anybody have any questions for Jay? Chris?
We had the opportunity for a couple of minutes to talk before the meeting began. Can you talk about what's happening in the garage now that everybody's here?
So,
Which garage, just for clarification,
The
please?
MBTA garage in downtown Lynn.
Thank you.
So the MBTA garage is slated to be moved at some point. There's still discussions on where people will be parking from that. Like the MBTA does nothing fast, so everybody gets all excited, and it's part of our problem we have. You know, there's been discussions of trying to get them to send an RFP out early on the parking garage to maybe entice development, people to buy it, maybe put parking under it. Like, there's been a lot thrown out, so, but their eyes are on it. Fortunately,
Not replace it.
not anytime soon, which was really horrible. But I just, you know, it's something that we know how slow they operate, at least in my eyes. I'd like to see them stop the ball on an RFP now before they go down that road, because they just take forever.
Is it in the condition that it needs to be demolished instead of fixed?
By their eyes.
Yeah.
I mean, and my daughter's excited that. My daughter's 9. She wrote a whole letter in school on how bad that place was to the mayor's office at one point. And we know it's bad. It's in tough shape. I agree.
How many spots are we talking about? About 500 or?
I don't know.
Fair enough.
I
It's
just know
just
that
with the surface wall, not much.
Yeah, so I know that this is all in talk basis, you know, that's where they're gearing towards, that, you know, as you mentioned, it was mentioned in the meeting to you guys, what was it?
Steve contacted something about transportation on the North Shore.
Yeah.
That's why I read it.
Yeah, they brought it up. So this is kind of something that we don't really want to see, but we don't have a ton of control from a city perspective.
I was just gonna say, as a city, you can't tell them that.
You can tell them.
You can tell them that
But
in
we
the
don't have a
MBTA,
say.
if we look around at efficiencies in that system. It's very, but you know, we haven't been very successful, but I.
Good that you proactive. Before it happens. When there's no parking, sure, there's a lot of
There's no way to
Get
know.
money.
Right. So there are discussions with people in the area, I'm not gonna that try to provide some offset. to that. I don't know where that's all been just yet, but I know that they was talking to a few people. So I wouldn't get all too excited just yet. I just, you know, like to make sure you guys know that's going on. We're working. So when these things come up, we hear about pretty proactive. That's where that relationship between the mayor's office and the council. Don't work.
Mhm.
You know.
The major topic of conversation at the breakfast at the beginning of April is Mass Inc.'s big transit-oriented development component, and a lot of it is centric around utilizing public transit as well as being able to park to utilize public transit. So we might have an ally in that capacity as well.
Problem. Right? You know, I work in the city. Drive around is difficult. Traffic's difficult. I think dealing with parking is tough, especially in business. I mean, we all know that if the parking's not in front of a place you want to run in quick, you can't get in. So, you know, that's a big issue. It's a big issue for Ward Towns. It's just the amount of people living in neighborhoods and homes. A lot of reasons for that, but the parking situation is miserable. So you realize.
Someone for a snow emergency.
That's right.
And the garage.
Right, right.
For the folks.
Isn't the mayor's, wish, I guess, that there would be significantly more housing in the city that would have an impact on the rising rents and flatten them out, or yeah, going to go backwards, but certainly flatten them out. So if that's the case, to build a lot more units, then something's got to give one way or the other to parking. Everybody that I talk to in downtown, all pointing to the garage, park 1,000 cars.
Yeah.
So you got to walk 3 blocks. good for them. You know, so what's the big deal?
Yeah, and so this is the discussion that I know that our state representatives I know this is happening. We're talking, we're trying to get them on board. There's something in Quincy, I'll tell you, it was the same idea happened when so the parking garage down. So the idea of whoever bought that property, put the garage under, there's some thoughts of it. That's correct. So
The city also just opened a residency, so you have however many employees in the city that are gonna be outside of the city. Now you have to fill those jobs with people inside the city. You can't use that.
that's right.
You can't talk about people after. That is on your desk.
Put on your list, who's the guy that bought the, Gary? Harry.
Yeah.
He's got a lot of land in the back for the high tension lines. And I don't see them developing something there with those there, because they have requirements from the power company itself. They can't build underneath them, things like that, whatever. But there's a fair amount, there's multiple acres, more land than there is in the downtown garage. And I don't know what the user rate was. It was like 400 or 500 cars a day. It wasn't nearly what the capacity was. It may be an opportunity for them. That's ways out walking distance to downtown.
There's this big, we've met with the Ferry, they're talking about different things for that stuff in the back there. They're trying to incorporate the landfill park that they're looking to do with them, so there's some sort of fusion there, especially that piece of property under the power lines. There's discussions, talks going on. Also, the council,
I know the way last week, people happened, that night.
but that the noise is going to happen there, whether the dumpster or not. So, but I know what you're talking. This is loud, extremely loud.
That they're hearing in the hut.
Yeah, big also for your best use of the water.
Yep, that's what. Yep.
No, I will say, Jay is pretty in tune with that, to the point where he put us all on his boat at different times last summer. And took us all up to Spectacle Island, had us walk the island, because Spectacle Island, Boston Harbor, is a park built on landfill. And Jay's done quite a bit of work looking into that, what we may see there. And there's also, I forget the date, I put it in my March newsletter, but there's also a Zoom meeting with the planners and what folks may want to see incorporated into that park. So that is, it may be March 23rd, but
And that's going to be important to have. I've seen it because I've had the benefit of being on the water most of my life. I've seen this landfill from the water, and you're not allowed to see it that way. And the similarities between Spectacle Island, I'll tell people, look up Spectacle Island. You don't know what it is. It was a landfill that Boston used for their trash and disposal of a lot of different things for 100 years. And then when they decided they were going to do a lot of the big project, all of that clay material had ghost, and it's very hard to collect, very expensive. So what they did was they put it on the island with the intent of capping the land, and the walking past and what's gone on out there. It's gorgeous, it's great, but not everyone can get to it. And it's really one of those things that I would bring people out there and they're like, wow. But unless you have a boat, you're not getting out there, you're going into Boston to have access. So it makes this situation really unique. The lady who is helping design a lot of the things for us, Clarissa, she was the engineer for Spectacle Island. So she was the person who did. I mean, she's the one, her stamp is on that island. I've gone out there. I've asked questions about it. There's a lot of possibilities for that. One of the things that I see down there, I'd love to see is some sort of amphitheater built into the side of it. I don't know. A lot of things you dream about. I thought that was something. We have a big venue at City Hall. We don't have the smaller ones. Would a place like that work? People come and see and recreate those areas. I think what's happened with the pandemic kind of shows that we need to, as we expand, we need to expand those recreational opportunities. So it's great to live in the city, but you need some place to go and have an outlet. And having it on our waterfront is probably one of the greatest things about it. You can get on top of that, you can see clear across the high. It's probably obviously, well, it's waterfront property, why are we doing this? But there's a lot of reasons why it has to be captured. It's exciting. I'm excited about it. I'm hoping we can set that path. I think it's you're looking 5 years out, before something gets accomplished here. I don't know that I would be here in 5 years in this role, but I can tell you that I'm happy to help step that path. Make sure we're going. And you have development like that. Look at the sites down there. I mean, not just from a community perspective, but from the people who have lots down in ownership. Think about what that means. We want to elevate those sites. So, but we also got to look at connections to the neighborhoods. We're good about putting isolated things together. How do we make sure our existing neighborhoods, right? So that's something that we have to look at.
Thank you, Kristen, but I know from also a firefighter, so we've had discussion in your perspective in education brought to the department from your water knowledge is an asset that a lot of people in the city probably don't. But I know there's been conversations behind the scenes that you've been involved with because of your water knowledge. So definitely have that.
You guys spent a lot of time on the water. I tell everybody I make my living on the water. Again, I'd probably just be on the water, but I just
refurbish one of those fishing boats.
I
that
know,
we used to be, my family's boat was part of your boats, and we could do tours of Spectacle Island.
Yeah, no, I mean,
So where do we sign up for the trip?
yeah, listen, I don't know the price of gas. You'd have to pitch in, I think now.
But
But,
amphitheater,
but-
that I
Well,
think
I don't know right now.
well, I gotta switch. I have to switch back. But it's exciting. I mean, I think that's the thing to take back from all the stuff we're talking about. We were talking about just saving ourselves from the demise of the city in some ways 2 years ago, and look at now we're talking about where are we going to spend our, where are we going to help make changes to attract different types of businesses, or where are we going to help create more housing in the city. But those are discussions that we were talking about, but probably never really had much to back it up. But now we do. And that's going to be exciting.
So for clarification, we're about March 23rd is what we're thinking for that meeting. We don't have the exact date,
March
but
23rd.
we'll clarify that.
I see Andrea on there. She gets my my newsletters. Actually, I see Jim Cardell. He might know. Jim, the date for the Zoom meeting on the Harbor Park, is that the 23rd? Do you know offhand?
It's on the tip of my tongue.
Yeah.
I believe it is the 23rd, yes.
Could
Okay,
you just
I can
yeah,
get that.
I'll send you an email, Colin.
yeah, no, thank you. But could you just clarify real quick, what is this meeting? Is it a feedback meeting? Is it more of a presentation?
It's a feedback. Yeah.
Okay,
And there's a link on the city's website as well.
so everyone's had opportunity to just idea dump, if you will?
Right.
Okay.
Things that residents.
When they put the plan together for this park, what will it be?
Yeah.
I would say, like I said, I steer people towards Spectacle Island just because it's the same thing. It's a landfill on the waterfront. The opportunities, what they got out there, it could be even greater here just because of the access. So those are things that you should just look at to get an idea to understand kind of what's capable available to do. And then have that input to us so we can say, hey, this is what people
March 24th. I mean,
Oh, 24.
March 24th for clarification.
And I think the link was.
What time is it,
So
Christine?
If you hit the link on the email, it should bring you to that website.
One of the things to keep in mind as well, some kind of a vehicle. If people, want to parking on the ferry site or someplace around, parking in the place for more than a couple of acres.
PM,
Or they
that's
can drive them to
on the 24th.
charge $1.
Thank you.
Park there and show, pay $3 a year.
So just for clarification, that's March 24th at 6 p.m. This is the waterfront meeting. There's a link available on the City of Lynn website. Thank you. So another question regarding transit and transportation, which is always a big topic, is the Lynnway. The Lynnway basically cuts the city of Lynn in half. And I know that pre-pandemic, there was a lot of work on the Lynn Transit Action Planning process. has the city council re-engaged with some of these processes and plans, and what kind of is the vision for it going forward, and any type of timeline that you see in the future?
So,
And I got a text that they can barely hear you.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah, I'm trying as much as I can. Go.
Real soon.
So yeah, I've spoken to the city planner about it. They're looking to resubmit for some of that. I've been excited about it, but also I've questioned some issues with it. Some of the plans that we've seen, just conceptual, was like narrowing of the Linway, and what does that mean? And we were waiting for some more data to come through. I know Aaron was supposed to get that. So, you know, it's a big thing. We're going, you know, possibly from a 3-lane highway on each side to 1 or 2. I mean, that's a big step. We want to make sure that's right. You know, so the one thing I would say is that it's happened where they narrowed the road in front of Western Ave. And I traveled back and forth there a lot to the fuel terminals at 5 o'clock in traffic. You would have thought taking a lane out Western Ave at that particular spot would have made it worse. And it hasn't. You just don't have the double lane backed up traffic. It's a single lane. So in some ways, the theory behind it does, you know, but we're waiting for some more data on that to find out whether we should resubmit. But we probably will, but we want to know at this step. Right? Sure. You know, the idea of doing that would be to connect the other side of the Linway to the rest of the city, because you don't have so many traffic to go over. But you know, there's a lot of questions that are still going to be answered that we're waiting for answers, particularly with like volume and how would that affect, you know, we're going to traffic backed up all the way to Marblehead, and in some ways we do now, you know, in some ways. So I don't know. Does it open that up? You know, you got the bus routes. Do we need to do more with the buses to make it more attractive? You know, a lot of people don't want to take buses, so there's a lot of reasons. So those are all questions that happen.
Do you know any type of a timeline that you're working on this for?
I don't remember. It might be a couple of months. I think we had to try to get something submitted just to get on the radar. They've pointed to different things that have happened in Boston where this has been done before, and it's worked in those areas. But my belief is that that area is a lot more transit orientated. There's a lot of options to that, where we're a little bit more on the outskirts of it. So I've got some reservations about it personally, but I'm very willing to open my eyes and learn about it too. That's one of the things you find about it. I may be like, oh, no way, this is crazy. But then I will ask, you know, and then you learn. I mean, that's just part of it. So we want to get that one right. You only get one shot.
As someone who drives that back and forth a million times a day, I certainly hope they do it after I sell my business and retire. I don't want to deal with it.
Right, but we have
Always open, everything's for sale.
We're looking at resubmitting and just waiting to come back. That wasn't fully put out yet, so we want to see what that looks like.
Okay, can you find a way with the ARPA money to do something to help out the Grand Arbor to Republic building?
So,
I mean, the way you find it is you look for the supports holding the windows in and the front.
oh, I know that building very well.
Embarrassing. It's you know, at least, but it's a memorial building as well for 260 fallen heroes from the Civil War. It's a big deal.
So there's a process with the ARPA fund. Everyone has seen it yet. They're doing different outreaches and things, emails, surveys. They want you to participate. So make sure you're participating in that. The only thing is there are strict rules with the ARPA fund. Some of it can be stretched in some ways, but a lot of it is very you know, it's orientated towards HVAC systems, trying to improve ventilation in buildings and things like that. So I think that's the stormwater, water, sea level rise, things, you know, along those roads. So yes, there are avenues for places like that to try to apply for it, but I don't know if it can really be used for those windows or structural conditions. And I don't know.
And as far as the ARPA meetings, Ward 2, and we've invited Ward 1 residents in as well for April 23rd at Grace Church at 6 p.m. Again, that's in my newsletter. And that would be for public input on what folks would like to see the ARPA funds used at. But we just recently passed a resolution that that the maintenance of the GAR goes under ISD. Now,
Right.
that was just what 2 weeks ago. So hopefully that's a step. And I mean, really getting federal grants is what it's going to take to restore that building to what it really should be. I mean, we spoke a little bit about it last night for an event that they're going to have there on April 6th with about mayors who were members of the GAR who went on to become mayors of the city, but they were members of the GAR. It's going to be hosted by Mayor Nicholson. And as I said last night, for those that haven't gone down there, that place is truly a gem of the city, and we do need to get that building up and get that scaffolding down and preserve the stuff that's in it.
21st, the
23rd.
And that's important for everybody to do that. So give ideas and thoughts on where that money should be used. They're gonna take all that info in and we're gonna digest it all, and try to figure out where the best. There's a lot of great thoughts on it, and I'm sure there'll be some really great discussion on it. And people were worried about when we're gonna use it, but I said, everybody, this is a good problem to have. So I just want to, let as much people want to hear. I mean, this is exciting, really. So
Well, thank you.
And Jim Cardell's on the call from EDIC, and $3 million was appropriated a short time ago that went out to small businesses and the small business grants. COVID test kits, I think $13 million went out for HVAC improvements in schools. So I think it's what, 58 million left. I know Johnny Castles was on the call because he's the one that texted me and said he couldn't hear. And Johnny is the compliance officer for the ARPA funds for the city.
I know you do a great job getting the word out to your ward. Hopefully, Council will get that out as well. What that means. Yeah, hopefully we get that.
Yeah, he reached out because, I mean, my church is actually what one, so can we piggyback on that? And, so now I have the sanctuary for. But unfortunately, we're not going to have pizza in the sanctuary, but all we do in there is communion. But we have it's a large area, so we can accommodate.
So on behalf of the chamber, I do want to thank the city council for approving that $3 million small business grant. We've heard already from businesses that are just grateful for these funds. Throw out to EDIC for being able to very efficiently process these grants and distribute funds. I think, Jim, you can confirm, but I think money's already been sent out.
As of yesterday, we did a little over $1.8 million in distribution. So
Yeah.
we're getting there.
I mean,
Yeah.
That's money on the street helping businesses today.
On top of what they've already put out since the pandemic started.
Yeah, so I mean, just a huge thank you from the business community to city council for acknowledging that and acting quickly. That's something that the businesses often need is quick resolution. And I know sometimes with government, it takes time and looking towards the future, but and those moments where need is speed, you guys have responded, so thank you. Over the next couple of years, 3 years, 5 years, what are maybe 1 or 2 key priorities that you feel city council wants to truly focus on for a betterment of Lynn? What would you say some of those, it doesn't have to be a comprehensive list, it doesn't have to be, this is number 1, but just give people a feel for what are some of those key priorities that you want to.
I think one of them would obviously be the Lynn, right? That's where the biggest piece of land is right now that's available to build on. I think we're trying to right now, we're going to do maybe change the zoning for biotech industry. That's something that seems to be expanding fast and pretty rapidly, and we want to be able to be the upswing of that, I guess, and try to types of people to want to come and build those types of facilities. So I think the use of land on Linway is going to be, it's been a priority for a long time. I think it's finally started up to that swing. Hopefully it all hangs there and we can get it over the hill. I always say a lot of people before me are pushing that ball up there. Jim, one of them, he's been working the Linway for a long time, and that ball seems to get up to the top, and we just want to throw it over the other way and make sure it comes down right, you know. And so those are the things that we're looking at. It's a big priority. I mean, I think housing in the city is a big problem, obviously, and how we get there, looking at the housing plan and trying to figure out what it is within that works for us in the city. Those are things that are happening right now. There's a committee, council of partners on it with the mayor and some of his people. They're looking at what that is, what it isn't. So those are important things for us. Obviously, the school system is a big priority. It's a problem. It's just a lot of the money we have for opera can't use to improve a building, to buy properties to improve school. But there's a good push for that to try to get something built, you know, for the brick site, right? Things like that. So that's not happening. Trying to come out. You know, in general, I mean, I've been a big proponent for recreation, so like parks and stuff like that. I'd love to see a lot of that spent, you know, throughout the city park system. Just think that if you're looking at attracting people or having people stay here in the city, not just necessarily attracting people, they want to be able to, you know, bring their kids to a state park or something, be able to go to a state place and enjoy it. You know, we lacked on that just because we just haven't had enough. So for me, at least, that's a personal goal that I'd like to see happen. But the bigger goals are going to be mostly schools, trying to figure out the housing city along with development, and then trying to figure out how to develop it and get that pushed over. So those are big goals that I see coming forward.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Hey, does anyone have any questions for the council president before we let him go? I know probably by 10 a.m. he'll either be installing a boiler or delivering oil to
I'm
someone's
going to be
house.
in an oil truck. I can guarantee that I'll be out. You won't even recognize me.
I just want to say congratulations, Jay, on your new position, and it's really great to see you.
Thank you. You too. You too. Thank you.
Okay, if there are no other questions for Jay, thank you all for joining us. Next month, is that state rep meeting, Colin?
We're still working on the state rep. April may be the budget time, and they might not be able to make an April meeting. If that's the case, we might see if we can bring some of the surrounding towns, some of their council members and whatnot into a conversation, potentially Saugus, potentially Swampscott. But if we don't get a representative from the state in April due to budget issues, they would be coming in May.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you all for joining us this morning. Again, those APA meetings are going to take place around the city, the different surveys on the parks and all. So stay engaged. It's great to see you all. Have a great day.
Thank you, guys. Good work.
Councilor Walsh for joining us, and Brotherhood Credit Union for once again allowing us to use their room. Thank you.
Good job, guys.
Thank you.